Rasengan.
Sarada's first MS ability has been revealed. If you thought the part where Sarada absorbs the iron sand was her first ability, well, that seems to be a big misunderstanding. Anyway, Boruto 2 Blue Vortex has already passed 20 chapters, but in chapter 21 we're taken way back, right to the time when this arc was still set in the Next Generation era. In other words, chapter 21 will show us a flashback between Sasuke and Boruto, during the moment they officially became rogue ninjas after escaping from Konoha. This sneak peek doesn't fully explain what actually happened in detail, but based on some speculations and analyses, all of this seems to be connected to Sarada, especially since in the last chapter she awakened her MANGEKYOU Sharingan. So, the sneak peek starts in a forest when Sasuke and Boruto escape from Konoha after the omnipotence tragedy that changed the fate between Boruto and Kawaki. At first, Sasuke was absolute if he was affected by Ida's omnipotence that changed between Kawaki and Boruto. But after Sarada spontaneously awakened her MS and asked Sasuke to save Boruto, this is where Sasuke felt that something unexpected had happened. And that something is beyond human understanding. Even Sasuke also saw how Sarada cried while telling Sasuke that Boruto was not a killer like the current reality. He didn't kill the 7th Hokage and he had a reason. Everyone was just fooled. That's at least what Sarada told Sasuke to listen to her request to save Boruto. But if I analyze a little from various aspects, the ability of Sarada's eyes is not widely realized to have the ability. In other words, when Sarada activates and pleads with Sasuke to protect Boruto, it should not be long after that Sasuke's memory will return to the reality that is happening. And supposedly a few minutes or hours after Sarada said that to Sasuke about the real truth about Boruto, then Sasuke would remember if Boruto was the one who killed the 7th Hokage, according to what Kawaki accused everyone of. However, since Sarada said the truth at the same time as activating her MS, then logically Sasuke had already been hit by a genjutsu or something. But clearly, Sarada's ability seems to be a natural counter to Ida's omnipotence. Because, once again guys, try to reconsider. How can an omnipotence ability that activates only minutes after the tragedy, there is someone who can break the reality of all human memories? Because literally it shouldn't work. But because of MS Sarada's ability, it was possible. But unfortunately, even though this hasn't been directly confirmed, it honestly makes sense. Apart from having the ability to suck in an object like iron sand, it turns out that Sarada also has the ability to manipulate the mind and direct it to some kind of reality. Damn. This makes a lot of sense, but if we assume that Sarada's MS abilities are similar to Shisui's, will this be a better version? Yeah, I hope it will be. Anyway, back to the next leak. Sasuke, who at that time still clearly remembered what had happened to his daughter, said that it was something beyond ordinary human understanding. Or in other words, for Sasuke, it was not something that could be used as an excuse just based on trusting someone's words. But someday, the time will come when everything will be revealed, and when that moment arrives, everyone will understand, both instinctively and logically. But for now, Sarada still hasn't realized the truth, that she has awakened that eye. Still, in the end, great power will continue to grow within her as she comes to face this reality. And yeah, that's at least the conversation between Boruto and Sasuke for this sneak peek, guys. But if we speak more rationally and analyze more deeply, the main reason Sarada doesn't realize or even understand the ability of her eyes is because of the dark history of an Uchiha that was erased. Yeah, you know, ever since Naruto became Hokage, it's a fact that the dark history of the Uchiha clan has been tightly sealed away. It's incredibly difficult for the new generation to truly understand what actually happened with the Uchiha, especially for Sarada herself. Let alone learning the full story of her father's past, Sarada doesn't even have a real understanding of the technical aspects behind the awakening or abilities of the MANGEKYOU Sharingan. Because, as we all know, history tells us that such a power always comes with a price, be it death, suffering, or some form of deep sacrifice. And that's exactly the kind of Uchiha legacy that Naruto decided to bury completely. On top of that, Sarada doesn't know the specific events of Sasuke's past either, right? So the conclusion is pretty clear. From all perspectives, it makes total sense why Sarada wouldn't fully understand or even realize that she had awakened that eye. Because again, if she had more sources or actual information about her clan, including how their eye techniques work, Sarada wouldn't be this lost. She would have figured it out. And if Sasuke had actually sat down and explained the Uchiha history in detail, none of this would have been so confusing for her in the first place. In the end, it all worked out perfectly. Even every detail of something that happened, Masashi made it for no reason. I'm really amazed by all this. So as a final conclusion, Sarada has a reason why the eye ability is delayed and even seems disappointing because it takes a long time to awaken the ability of her eyes, and not like in general as an Uchiha. Yeah, that's pretty much the analysis for the Boruto Chapter 21 leaks, guys. But what do you think? Do you agree with me that Sarada's ability had already been active from the very moment she awakened her eye, and that it's actually the power to manipulate someone's mind and guide them toward a reality shaped by her own will? Like how she made Boruto appear innocent because she truly believed he wasn't guilty. Yeah, whatever your opinion is, I'll be happy to listen to it, guys. And in your opinion, what are your expectations for Chapter 21? Will something that we are curious about be revealed in Chapter 21? Yeah, it's about Kawaki, since Chapter 18 came out. In Chapter 19 onwards, something that will happen to Kawaki, Mado, and his daughter clone is something that we are very curious about. But I'm a bit pessimistic, to be honest. It even seems like the continuation of the fight between Sarada and Ryu will be postponed. In other words, since this chapter will focus entirely on revealing everything about Sarada's Sharingan ability, it feels pretty unlikely that we'll get any scenes involving Kawaki and Amado in Chapter 21. Because with such a slow phase, each story will be made longer and lead to some past things when entering the climax. For example, in Chapter 15, Code has his hand cut off, and he must accept the fact that he must now be under the control of the monster he created. But in the next chapter, there is no scene of what Code will do next. Then Kawaki and Amado. After we were left wondering whether Kawaki would relent and implement his karma in the body of his daughter Amado's clone, or Amado himself would relent and follow Kawaki's request to adjust his attack power to the maximum level. Yeah, this all becomes something very hanging because in the next chapter, there is no information on what will happen next until Chapter 20. But whatever it is, we hope it will be something more exciting and not disappointing. So thanks for watching, like and subs. I'm Nim, see you in the next leak on the 17th. Bye bye, Data Bio.